Okay.
Welcome into Shaping Reality for June 2025. I hope you guys are doing great out there. I'm Kimberly Montgomery with Journey to the Earth, and I'm joined as in every month by the wonderful Penny Kelly, consciousness teacher, author,
Yeah.
volunteer here on Earth extraordinaire. How are you doing, Penny?
I'm doing okay. I'm actually really more concerned about the people out there in the world because of the craziness that's now happening. And I've been listening to a lot of stuff and thinking, oh dear, uh-oh. So,
Okay,
yeah.
let me just chime in because I'm the normie here. Like I'm the straight man.
Okay. Oh my.
And I probably speak for other people watching, which is why I'm bringing this up. It has gotten to the point that it is so chaotic
I know.
that I just don't even know what to say. And for me, that's an unusual situation. It seems as though things are so nuts. At times, it seems like we're getting a completely different meal than we ordered.
I know.
And I don't even know, I think that perhaps the intention of all of this is working because all I want to do is walk away and go, sit under a tree or something. I just want to check out.
Yep.
How do we, how are you seeing the world?
Mm.
And I guess my overarching question tonight as we work through all the topics is, how do we navigate this in a way that's useful?
Oh wow. Well, I'll share what's happened over the last week and where I'm at now. And I fully expect that I'll be someplace, could be totally contradictory, in 2 days.
I know.
My decision was, okay, I have this feeling something might be happening here soon. This was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And whatever happens, I'm going to allow myself to have the full spectrum of feeling and responses. I'm not going to try to tell myself, oh, I shouldn't think that, or, oh, that is outrageous, or any of that. I'm just going to let myself feel. And maybe, each little type of feeling will last a minute, maybe it'll last a day, maybe it'll last longer. But I've been doing that, and that has been very interesting. So I think it was the 15th of June. I was driving home. I had just driven home from Berkeley Springs after giving my talk there. And I get into bed. It's late. It's really quite late. It's like 12:30 or 1. Not too late for my usual, but I was tired, so I wanted to go to bed earlier. And my throat was really hurting with that razor throat thing. And I climb into bed, I cover up, I close my eyes, and instantly I was driving through this landscape. It was a full-blown, full visual, auditory, kinesthetic vision. And the landscape was dark. It was rainy. It was, I was on a road that was absolutely littered with pieces of old buildings, old cars, junk, trash. A couple times I had to get off the road and drive on the shoulder. I went through an entire city. It was completely destroyed. And I think maybe when I first closed my eyes, I'm driving and I'm thinking, holy cow, am I dreaming? Did I go to sleep instantly? and so I open my eyes and I'm looking at the ceiling and the ceiling fan. And I think to myself, oh, wow. Okay, it'll probably go away now. Close my eyes. It's right back again. I did that 3 or 4 times. And finally I thought, I'm afraid to go to sleep. I'm afraid I'm going to see or feel or know how this mess happened. So I got up and I wrote a few notes in my journal just to distract myself because I was really concerned. And then I go to sleep. And I think it was the next day or the next morning, I heard that that Israel or somebody had bombed somebody. And so I was like, oh no, great. So at that point, I realized that I had been too occupied to really follow the news because I was getting ready for that seminar or that talk. And I felt like I was way behind. And then, I knew that Iran or that Israel had bombed Iran on, I think, the morning of the 14th or Friday the 13th or something like that. And I thought, okay. So that was when I started with it. Okay, I'm just going to feel whatever I'm feeling. And I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to let it all out. So it's been a roller coaster. And last night I wrote a letter to President Trump. And it was just this ferocious, what the hell were you thinking? Obviously you weren't. And I went on for like a page and a half. But after that was done, I ended up, I had listened to a couple people over the course of the week. And some of the things I had heard started to gel. And I thought, okay, there could be the hidden agenda here. There could be a hidden risk that Trump was taking. But the big concern that I have is that with having done something that is unconstitutional and that is considered a war crime, he may have just shot himself in the foot. And the whole bunch of the MAGA base I could just see it just melting away. And not only that, but now the Democrats are saying we're going to impeach. They're starting an impeachment case. And that, you don't bomb somebody else, even if you warn them, without permission from Congress and without them having done something to us. That is a war crime. And so it's like, I don't know that if he gets impeached, that he's going to get off as easily as he did the first time.
Okay, can I stop you because I have a couple of questions just to catch us up?
Okay. Yep.
Let's start with the vision that you had. So help us understand, are you jumping timelines? Are you stepping into a different frequency set?
Mm-mm.
What are you just seeing something? What are you doing there?
I think, we have to wait and see. You always, when you have a full-blown vision, that's always a gift. It didn't look like much of a gift, okay? But you have to then wait and watch and be informed that it could look like that.
Okay, so when you say gifts, so what you're saying is that somebody gave you that information in
Right.
order for you to use it at some
Yes.
point.
Yes. Especially since I wasn't looking for a vision.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking for that. This is like a look, you need to know this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that I've tucked that vision away. And in my mind, I've thought, okay, it could get that bad. It could result in that kind of destruction. And so in keeping that in my own mind, a couple times I've thought, okay, what other things could be going on that we might not end up like that? Maybe not quite as bad.
But what I want to say is that that vision that you saw, that is happening in different, look as like Gaza. It's just not happening right here in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, right. That's true. And I saw some photos of Tel Aviv. Oh my gosh. I would say probably 1/3 to 1/2 of it is gone. Absolutely destroyed. Buildings in pieces, beautiful buildings. And I think Israel has had the great unfortune to have terrible leadership. And And all of that, they've only been a nation since 1948. And all of that work to build those cities and those towns, it started with the kibbutzes, and all those people who worked their tail off to build the cities and towns and upgrade what was there. Of course, they were taking it all away from the Palestinians, the people who already lived there. But all that is down the tubes. Even the Israeli people are abandoning Israel left and right by any means they can get out, by
Yeah,
boat, by
and I
private.
I feel like they're trapped. I mean,
Some of them are.
and it's frustrating because it's like being in a car with a drunk mother.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah,
You know,
Netanyahu is drunk with power.
he's
Greed.
drunk with power, and they're the sacrificial lambs. You can't get out. You can't
I know.
fly out. You know,
Well,
it's
people were hiring private planes. They were taking boats and going to Cyprus, to Italy. They were escaping overland into Egypt and I think into whoever is just to the north, or that'd be the northeast of them. Any direction they could go in, and all sorts of cities are really having a huge exodus of people that has left buildings empty. And I read something either yesterday or today that said, oh wow, look at all these nice leftover buildings for the Palestinians can move out of Gaza and come back to their own land. And I was like, wouldn't that be poetic justice or karmic justice or whatever you want to call it? So there's a lot of drama happening. And my big concern, and I'll share in a minute, the possibility that it could be this or it could be that. But I don't know that the people of the U.S., let me say it this way. The people of the U.S. have been so stressed for 5-6 years now, 6 years. And they're over it. They're like fed up right to the eyeballs. And I don't know if any, quote, explanation or justification would be enough to get them to say, oh, it's okay. We get it. There's been a lot of that kind of thing, and people are war weary because first we had the COVID war, and then we had the thing in the arm war, and now we have this war, and it's really, I don't know that people are even interested in hearing an explanation.
and you left out the woke war. The men can have babies war.
And the gender war. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I think you're right. But Penny, I don't know that it's just the US.
Oh no, it's not.
It's like I'm up to here. And the reason I say that is because I know many of you watching are up to here.
Yeah.
So I just want you to know, don't feel you're alone, because it's almost like I almost feel like things are going to break in a big way just because of the people who've had it.
That's true. That's true. There's been a total failure to kind of stick your toe in. Where are the American people at? We have been disregarded for so long.
And we're paying for all of it.
I know. Oh my gosh. And things are falling apart around us. Roads, services. Oh my gosh. There's some stories I could tell. But nobody's bothering to ask, what do we want? Trump should have, if he was going to bomb somebody, he should have gone to Congress. Those are our representatives, and he should have gotten an okay or permission. And he also was supposed to have gone to the UN, and he didn't do that either. So now we have this massive condemnation. We have burnt all of our social capital over the last 40, 50 years. We don't have any left. And people are there. I think people are just like, I can't wait to see those Americans suffer. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry that we've had a whole string of jerks in the presidency. And we're the ones, we're the ones that are paying. You're just like you said, in every way, physically, financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in terms of our lives, our energy. Oh my gosh. So let me just share one thing, okay? And this was something that I wrote to Jean-Claude, and because I kept watching Trump, and so after I listened to the Special Decode with him and Janine, I thought, okay, that kind of brought me up to speed. There's something going on in the background. Maybe there's, what is that, etc. So I wrote and I said, I keep watching Trump, and this actually is something I've been doing ever since Trump came in. It's like something I'm watching. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Why do I have a feeling that something's not right? Why am I having this perception that the things he says and does could be taken either way, either leading us into the squeeze gate or being exactly what we want? And I couldn't shake that feeling. I still can't. It's like there's something not being shared, or there's something duplicitous happening here. So I wrote and I said, so many things Trump does could be taken either way. And that inability to identify what his real position was, that's really, that you can't jump to premature conclusions. So you end up dangling. And you get tired of dangling and waiting and waiting and waiting. So even when I took into account the possibility that there might be more than one Trump, courtesy of clones and masks and doubles and all that stuff, I still felt like something was way off. And so now I'm thinking that this careful avoidance of being too easily categorized. Trump just seemed to be walking a very fine line that was geared to make everybody think that he's doing exactly what we want, but that some of the things he was doing, he would back away from the minute there would be an outcry, and he would change his tone and he wouldn't bring that up or whatever. It's like, okay, that's not a good thing. And so that effort to make sure that he couldn't be categorized as either, let's say, in the white hat camp or the black hat camp, that struck me as, that might be part of the plan. And so either to fool us or maybe to fool Israel. So I kept thinking that if he's walking a fine line, it would lull the elites that paid for a lot of his campaign stuff. And he would be trying to do some of the things that they want him to do and trying to do what we want him to do. And what about what he thinks is best? That's a high stress position. And to fool so many people on both sides all the time, I don't know, that, it just seemed like he was, at some point he was going to have to play his hand, because the stress of walking with one leg on each side of the fence ends up, cutting you right in half. So then I got to this point where I thought, okay, so let's look at this from the point of view of it's a setup. In the Q drops, if you give any credence to the Q drops, they said they were saving Israel for last. Yeah. And it came up more than once. And I thought, okay, saving Israel for last. Looks to me like they're saving Israel for last because, they're joining lock, stock, and barrel with Israel, and we're the losers. We've been betrayed. We're, etc. So, so then after a day or so of, okay, he's leading us into this trap, I thought, I wonder if he's setting a trap for them. So by going along or appearing to go along and being diplomatic and being polite and, saying all the right rhetoric, it might be that the, quote, saving Israel for last thing was a trap for Israel, getting them to bomb Iran, and then stepping back and saying, oh, well, we can't get involved in your war, leaving Israel hanging out there to take their, take their punishment for having taken on Iran, who is has amazing military weaponry.
You said they have some weapons that we
OMG.
would be blown away by.
Yeah, we would.
Far beyond nuclear.
Yeah, way beyond nuclear. And, that's not well known. And I don't know.
How do you know it?
Because I can see it.
Oh, okay. That's whole psychic thing.
I started looking 10, 11 years ago when I started in 2012. So it's 12 years ago. When I first started listening to Miran Kesh and his work. And at that point, I was still working with Dr. Levengood. We were working with plasma. We were studying plasma. I was getting an education in plasma physics and was thinking, I never really said anything, but I was thinking, wow, this is going to move the people of Earth closer to what we, meeting some off-planet people, have in terms of weaponry.
Yeah.
And then because I don't know who tried, but a number of countries tried to kill Miran Kesh, and he moved from wherever he was, I think somewhere in Germany, he moved somewhere else, maybe up to the Netherlands, and then he moved to Italy. And then he gave a talk. I don't know what year it was, but it was maybe right in that same time period, that was attended by some of the top military people in the U.S. And that talk happened to be filmed or recorded. And I watched that and thought, oh my God, do they know? And I think the military people, these were top military people. I'll just leave it at that. And they were listening to Kesh, and they were saying, how did you figure it out? How did you get this far without anybody knowing what you were figuring out? Yeah. And it's the same thing you get whenever you have somebody who is independent enough and passionate enough to work on their own. They're not dependent on government grants. And government grants, limit everything you want to do. You don't get any money if you want to do something that might really challenge their power or come to understand their power. So they keep everybody in the dark. And I listened to a little bit of the conversation between Kesh and these military people and thought, too late, you guys. To the U.S. military and the German military and whoever else, it's like, too late. He's way ahead of you.
Okay, I have heard repeatedly from off-planet sources that dropping little packets of information happens quite a bit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I would think that they would look for someone independent, super passionate, super committed.
Yep.
Couldn't stop them if you wanted to because they're so going forward.
From the heart.
Those are the people they drop the information into.
That's true. That's true. So, what I understood in all of that, not just that conversation between the military and Kesh, was that Kesh had and Kesh knew it too. He was very careful about what he didn't say, but I knew that I understood plasma technology and I knew what it was capable of. And I also have memories from where I came from. And it was like, OMG, the people of Earth, we are going to move into the new paradigm. And then, boom, the harassment of Kesh and another murder attempt. And he was Iranian, brilliant Iranian.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And so he gave everything he had to Iran and said, let me show you how to use this. Let me teach you what this makes possible. And that was at least a decade ago, at least. And then a couple years later, after I had read one of his books, and I was like, oh, wow, this guy has been getting information, straight from somebody. Okay.
Other people who know more stuff.
That's right. And he said in an announcement, after some kind of harassment, he said, I'm going to tell you this one time. Don't bother Iran.
Oh.
Don't bother Iran. And just, when you hear something like that with that kind of intense tone of voice and look in the eyes and body language, what I understood at that moment was that Iran had taken what he gave them and took it to the limit. And that limit is not quite as far as off-planet weaponry. Off-planet weaponry has the ability to just dissolve somebody or something.
Which is beyond killing you. It's killing your frequency set.
Yeah.
In other words, you melt completely.
You just disappear.
Yeah.
As if you never existed. And that is a pretty formidable weapon. And Iran has the capacity to, I'll say, disappear some frequency sets. And some of those frequency sets that they know how to disappear are the frequency that makes up a plane or a boat or a circuit board or. And all that is operational. And I think after that first warning that Kesh put out, don't bother Iran, he came back, somebody asked him something, and he said, don't bother Iran unless you want to see all your boys and girls at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. We will just pull the metal out of the bottom of the boat, just dissolve the metal. And that is a pretty serious ability. And I think Russia has some of that same capacity. And I think the U.S. may have some of that, but I'm not sure it belongs to the U.S. I think it may belong to the breakaway civilization. Yeah. And so the U.S., maybe we have some capacities, maybe. But, sorry, there's a light bounced around my ceiling. So
maybe somebody's trying to talk to you.
Okay, maybe. Okay.
Somebody wants to interject. What are they saying?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, shh, I'm online. So, so I think, so one last thing, let me say this. I guess at some point, now there's a long story about me and Cliffy's work, the Alta reports. I subscribed to them, and then I would download them, and I couldn't make any sense out of them. So I, after a while, I would download them, stick them in a drawer. I never read them. And so they were terrible at the point that I was subscribed. But evidently, there was a message somewhere in those messages that talked about the Israeli mistake.
Mhm.
And that, my thought was, okay, I wonder if Trump, by appearing to go along and appearing to be in cahoots with Netanyahu, led them to make the mistake of attacking Iran, not realizing it would be the end of them, not realizing what Iran had. big, big miscalculation there. And that may be what showed up in the Alta reports as the Israeli mistake. They attack, and then Trump says, okay, you're on your own. Or he backs away, or he does something that doesn't back up Israel. And it turns out that their huge mistake was a total miscalculation of who was really on their side and what Iran was capable of. And they just ran into a brick wall because they have spent so many years destroying their social capital all around the world. So that, I'm waiting now. My thought was, we have to wait and watch some more. And I'm like, I'm tired of waiting and watching. I'm tired of it. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm in listening to today's rhetoric. There's an awful lot of condemnation, and now the impeachment is they're starting that whole thing. There's a lot of feeling of betrayal on the part of a lot of people. Even if it was a for show retaliation or bombing of Iran, I heard somebody say, oh, here's Trump. I'm going to bomb your nuclear facilities. Okay, we bombed them. You want to make a deal? I'm like, let's talk. I'm like, oh my God. So
what Mike Adams, the health ranger, is saying it was all a stage thing. We're going to bomb you. No casualties on either side. Okay, we bombed you.
I know. Not only that, when Trump called and told them we're going to bomb your nuclear facilities 2 weeks before, they moved all of their nuclear enrichment facilities and all their enriched uranium somewhere else. Now we don't know where it is. And they also moved all of their gold and their jewels and their asset and their financial stuff to a hidden place. I think the fact that Trump called and said, I'm going to bomb you. He didn't say the day and the time, but he gave them plenty of time to scramble around and get their important tools out of range. I thought, well, maybe Trump and Iran and Russia, they're all in cahoots trying to get rid of the deep state. So, Obama and Hillary, I forget how many pallets of cash, billions of dollars they sent to Iran saying, you can, this is for you to develop your nuclear facilities. They thought they were going to be in control of Iran. So big disappointment there. And I have a nephew that was part of a team that was stationed in Turkey who made some very, very dangerous, what do they call them, sorties into Syria. And I was talking to his mother, this was quite a while ago, and she said, I got a message from Sean, that's her son, my nephew, and he said, Mom, I just want you to know, whatever happens, I love you. And she said, I knew immediately that he was doing something really dangerous. So when I heard that, I went to look. I was like, well, what was he doing? you know. And what I saw was that he was part of a team, a secret team. He's a fabulous mechanic, plane mechanic, and mechanized brigade type mechanic. And they had moved into Syria to do something that was very, very dangerous. They were setting up some sort of explosives. I don't know what all, but I thought, oh, that is very dangerous. And that was quite a while ago. And then all of a sudden, Syria goes down. And I thought, okay, the U.S. is up to its old tricks. They are taking out one country after the next, just like they said they were going to do. But it's not going to end well. So now we're at the end. We are at the end. I don't know if we will survive, but I don't think Israel will. So it's possible that they're going to end up making some kind of a deal. Okay, we bombed you, but we gave you warning. And then, they bombed us, but made sure nobody got hurt. And the places that they bombed, there were 3 nuclear facilities. There was almost nothing there. And the damage they did, even though Trump and Hegseth and the others said, oh, it was a spectacular damage. It wasn't, I think they broke a door or something like that. It was like, oh my God, all that plane and fuel and danger and they
that we're paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
With people getting so much more frequencies on board and things are shifting for humanity.
Oh my gosh.
How can anybody hide anything anymore? I mean, there are remote viewers like you. You just go look for it.
Yeah. Well, they can't. They can't hide anything.
See, it's like, what are you going to hide?
Nothing.
How can you hide anything? You just send a remote viewer to go find it.
Exactly. And so then you have to confront the fact that people have belief systems. And if they have been, let's say they made personal and financial and religious and family stands, commitments that are based on this position, and then that turns out to be not true, are they flexible enough to say, oh, that was a mistake? I should have been looking at this. I should have been thinking about that. I should have been reading more widely or listening more deeply. All of that is, you run right smack into belief systems. And we have in Iran some pretty, I'm just going to say they're pretty primitive, please forgive me, Iran, belief systems that are at the lowest level of 3D.
Oh.
They are not
the majority of the population.
They believe that religion, and I don't believe this. I mean, I'm willing to tolerate it, but I don't think it's a good idea for religion to be the government. That's Catholic crap from way back when. And so you have in Iran, you have Shias and Sunnis, and they both, they have, one's a little more relaxed, a little more financially interested in finance, but the other one is highly restrictive religious beliefs, highly restrictive, very, very firm. They're unbending, and I forget which is which. I think Shia is the one that is so rigid, and Sunni is the one that's a little more relaxed. I could have that wrong, but that whole split doesn't erase the fact that both sides think that government should be running things. So that when you evolve as a planet, you evolve past the need to have a big external government. You step into personal responsibility. Everybody is encouraged to develop their consciousness and their power and their wisdom. And when you have a very restrictive, rigid system, that cannot happen. And so I think what we're seeing is we're not talking about, not very many people are talking about it, but we're seeing the split to a higher dimensional thinking. Higher dimension is very much predicated. Higher dimensional thinking is based on taking responsibility.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah, personal responsibility for yourself, and exhibiting or demonstrating an appreciation for life and loving that life.
Yeah.
And they're not there.
Let me interject here about you. And I learned the term squeeze gate from you. I understand it's a kettle term, squeeze gate.
Right.
And you have used it in the form of, the deep state putting us in the squeeze gate. I'm wondering right now if the universe isn't putting us in the squeeze gate.
Mm-mm.
Because we seem to be one of those civilizations that our technology far outpaces our spiritual maturity.
That is true.
So now we're coming to a place where we can blow everybody up, but we don't have the spiritual maturity to understand that that's not the way to go. So
I know.
It's like the universe is kind of saying, all right, you're there.
Right.
You're heavily weighted towards a destructive ability. You have not decided that personal sovereignty, personal responsibility is the key to a successful civilization.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do now?
That's a very good point. And I think what we're seeing in terms of the squeeze gates is that those people that have that technology are going to be the ones that end up in the squeeze gates. Those who are busy saying, we want a different kind of world. We want a different kind of relationship to power and wisdom and grace. We want common sense in terms of, money, time, energy, creativity in our personal lives. And so one of the things that is part of the process of stepping into that new world is having to let go of the old one and then watch it crumble. And that is incredibly painful. Yeah.
It's painful. And, Penny, sometimes, and maybe you have this, because I've heard you talk about times that you're emotionally overwhelmed.
Gosh, yeah.
It's almost like this is such an emotional reality system. It can be overwhelming. The amount of love you feel for the planet and for your children and for your friends, and then the amount of pain you feel for all the heartache. I mean, the heartache can be overwhelming.
It can. And you have to cry. You have to cry. The thing to be aware of is here, and it took me a long time to get to this point. When the first gut instinct that you have, when you see a bug crawling on your leg or a spider across the table, is to say hello instead of squish it.
Yes, you've arrived.
Yeah, you have made a core change, and it may have taken a while to get to that point, but that's a clear indicator. And such a little thing. Bugs are little tiny things, and you wouldn't think that they would be such an important indicator, but the tiniest form of life is a treasure.
Yeah,
absolutely wonderful. And remember the story about the ant that I found in my bathroom in the middle of the winter, the first year that I was divorced and I was all by myself, and I was rattling around in a 20,000 square foot home nobody here struggling, with the fire, trying to keep warm. And it was, it was just a really rough time. And I see this ant come crawling across my bathroom floor in the middle of winter. And I was ecstatic. Was like, hi, did you come to visit? And, and I, made sure that when I turned around from the sink, it was like, where are you? I don't want to step on you, that kind of joy. And he was back and forth for a couple of days, and I don't know what happened to him after that. But I was like, it's so nice to have company.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the turning point. But that's not the reaction that a lot of people have. They see a bug and then boom, they're going to smash it. They're going to hit it. And that, you can't do that. Life is so precious in every form. And I see my son beginning to see and feel that same thing. He's quite the hunter, but he's got this appreciation for life and for balance in life. I'm like, oh, wow, he's coming along. So it's hard to witness the coming apart. It's hard to witness the denseness of somebody like Netanyahu. It's like, how dumb can you be? Can you not see that we don't need to have power over everybody? You don't need control over the world. And I don't think he gets it. And there's a lot of people right in his pocket who don't get it either.
All right. So I'm going to be that tinfoil hat person here.
Okay. I'll be happy to trade places with somebody because usually that's me.
I'm sure you've thought of all of this. I saw a picture of Netanyahu. It's very clear that there was a mask. Is it?
Okay.
So then it made me wonder, okay, well, if that's not Netanyahu, maybe it's not Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we had a pretend president for 4 years before Trump. What if that's, so here's where I go, because maybe that's not Trump. Maybe they took Trump out.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
real Trump. Maybe it's not Netanyahu. Maybe this is just off-planet people that are stepping in to human form.
They're trying to, I don't want to, people have enough on their mind. It's like, can we just deal with one thing at a time? But that is a very valid point. There are several Donald Trumps. We don't know that we're dealing with the real Donald Trump, but I got to that point. I think it was in my look-see, the most recent look-see. And I had watched that interview with Dr. Jack Cruz.
Yeah.
He was talking about Sakamoto, who's Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto.
Satoshi, yeah.
Yeah, right. And he, in a brief form, what he laid out was that the New York Jewish mafia, which was headed by Meyer Lansky, got mad at the Chicago Jewish mafia, which was aligned with the Rothschilds. The Rothschild base in the U.S. is in Chicago. And they decided that they were, I think the language he used was, we're going to get them by the balls. And so he is the one who had somebody create, I guess Meyer Lansky was a financial genius.
Yeah, the wizard.
Yeah, wizard. I love that term. So he had somebody start this crypto system, which evolved into the whole, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, et cetera, et cetera. But in the telling of that story, it really became pretty clear. And this is one of the things that happens with, being intuitive and always being open for somebody to say something that opens a window and you go, oh, MG, look at that. Where they say something and all of a sudden, like 10 other things related to that. So in his telling of this story about how they were trying to get rid of the Rothschilds. Meyer Lansky was angry with the Rothschilds for cheating other Jews, which the Rothschilds cheat everybody. So Lansky was like, look, you buggers, how dare you? He was furious. But in that whole thing, it became pretty clear that the New York Jews had declared all-out war against the Rothschilds, which are the deep state, and all of their connections. And I thought, I even saw that Trump was aligned with those New York Jews. And where is the main base of the Rothschild? It's Israel.
Yeah. Well, didn't they form Israel essentially?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay, so that right there, and when you were talking about, how Israel started with the kibbutzes and they built it up into a beautiful country.
Yeah.
What came to me, and it's back to that, I feel like we're all stuck in a speeding car with a drunk mother at the wheel.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart to think that the people of Israel built this beautiful country.
Yep.
And they were just used.
They were
used to build this beautiful country. They gave it all their love and passion.
Yep.
And efforts for people who did not have good intentions. And the same thing is happening around the planet. It's like we're being worked to death. We're being stressed to death. We're being made sick. We're being poisoned. I mean, and we keep all our labor, all our efforts are going, like you say, pushing money uphill.
Yeah.
For these people who don't care, we're just a problem to be managed.
I know.
And so that leads me to think, when are we just going to stop?
I don't think we're going to stop. I mean, I don't want to be a downer, but until we stand up. Look, here, I was thinking about this today. Look how we all came together to get Donald Trump elected in November.
Because we thought things were going to be different.
Yeah, right. But the important point is that we all came together. We got something done.
Okay, that's an important point. But I think for me, the bigger point is, I don't feel like we came together to elect Donald Trump. We came together because we wanted things to be different.
That's right. Exactly.
And he was the person saying, I will do those things that you want to be different.
That's right.
And what I'm seeing right now is people are saying, whoa, ho, ho, ho. This is not what we ordered.
That's right.
We don't care. Trump, you're not our desire. Our desires are what we told you. But okay, so clearly that's the first level of thinking. And then my second level of thinking is, Kimberly, why on earth, or how would any of us, knowing how the world really runs, it's a few rich people with selfish intentions who don't care about humanity. They want the planet for themselves. They want just enough humans on this planet to make it comfortable for them.
Right.
So why on earth do we think that we're getting any valid information?
I think because that comes down to believing what you want to believe, twisting things to make them be what you want them to be, hearing something and saying, oh, that's, I think that indicates it's personal opinion. So you're quite right. And I think that the important piece, and I love the way you said this, I was going to jump in and say, stop right there, um, was we came together because we wanted something better. We wanted something different. I think we have to do that same thing now without trying to pin that tail on some donkey or some elephant in this case.
And that's what I meant when we need to stop.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
we need to look at each other and say, we're going to go in this direction.
That's right.
We're going to, you know, I'm done with these people. I'm done playing the game. You know, if I am a one of these, if I'm playing with 1%,
Okay.
I'm strategizing and this and that, the last thing I'm going to do is tell the little people what I'm doing.
Oh,
I'm going to come up with and I'm talking like I'm a naughty boy, naughty
yeah, I
person,
know, like an elite
like
in
an
the
elite.
1%.
I'm going to spin a story and feed it to whatever news outlets, you know, the mainstream media or the alternate. I'm going to spin a story and I'm going to do what the hell I want. So it's like I
Mhm.
read, you know, it's like we all see what's on Twitter or we all see what's on the MSN or what, you know, who this person or that person is talking about. Why do we even begin to think that we're getting even an inkling of what's really going on?
I don't know why we think that. I've asked myself 100,000 times, why do people think that what's out there is what's really happening? There's no answer. They think what they want to think. Everybody's an individual. Cumulatively, we get an impact. That impact so far has been, in this my humble opinion, it's been abdication of power. People
Yeah.
don't want to step into their power. They want somebody that will take care of them. They want somebody that will make the hard decisions. They want somebody that'll stand up. And we have a long tradition of kings and queens and presidents and parliaments and prime ministers, all of that. We're moving beyond, some of us are moving beyond that, but there's no organization on this planet in this dimension that could step in and fill that. Now, there are organizations off planet, but we're not there yet. And that's, so we're left kind of dangling, watching what's unfolding. And at some point, we're gonna, I mean, we have to be taking responsibility.
So
So,
based on your memories, Penny, or I wish I knew what you knew. That
oh,
would
I don't know. Maybe you don't want to know what I know.
maybe I don't. So do other humanoid, is this a typical turning point for a humanoid civilization on the brink of change? In other words, have other civilizations gone through a similar
Yes.
crash and burn or whatever you want to call this?
A transition, deep,
Okay.
big transition.
That's a
Um,
prettier word.
yeah, I know. um, Other civilizations have, and a lot of them don't make it.
And what do you mean that they die out and they're no longer able to reproduce and
They self-destruct,
yeah.
and there's hardly anybody left. And the ones that are left typically have been, we'll use the term socialized, within a particular kind of environment, and they're just as not adaptable as we are showing ourselves to be.
Okay.
And we have had a huge amount of support. Um, this is one of the things I think we need to consider. Um, a civilization, okay, because because of the nature of our planet and our sun, we have this thing called the catastrophe cycle. Sometimes it's known as a disaster cycle. And it blows every 12,000 years. And it's the 12,000 year blow is devastating. The 6,000 year one, every 6,000 years is bad, but it's not as bad as the 12,000. So in that in that 12,000 year period of time, the how do I say it? There's an opportunity for the population to grow and mature and evolve, to move up to another level or 2 or even 3. And you have 12,000 years to evolve. If you don't do that, then the civilization will typically self-destruct or will be wiped out by the disaster cycle. And then ETs who are nurturing the life on that particular planet and who see the possibilities and who want more people to join them, they keep coming back to reseed or teach or nurture or help the survivors who may not know how to do anything. And I used to think, well, how could they not know how to grow oats or corn or whatever? But when all the fields are wiped out and you have, let's say, a city dude is the one who survives, what does he know about growing oats and corn or anything to do with that? Or getting
Do
any.
they ever go in and just pick the people up?
They do. They do. But typically, if there's enough people surviving, and they often will know that, they'll know how it's going to be. But they won't know until the last minute. That's the hard thing. So, let's say that they see the sun is going to blow. It's going to blow. It's going to blow. And then it blows. Boom. The people that are on the side of the earth facing the sun, they're done for. But the people on the other side, they have like 17 hours. And so ETs will swoop in and say, now, come immediately and get on board. We can't wait. And they have already selected who they're going to pick up, etc. So
they've selected on this planet who they're going to pick up?
Yeah. And typically they're going to pick up the people that are here working with them and that have made the sacrifice of coming here and saying, okay, let's do our best. Let's see if we can get people to wake up to what's needed. So in the religious sector, you have this concept called the rapture.
Yeah.
And the rapture is really the ascension. And the ascension is really the evolution of consciousness. And you're going to evolve in one of 2, maybe 3 directions. But one direction is you're going to evolve enough that you are prepared to survive. Or 2, you're going to be taken on board and brought back later. And so those are the 2 main options. And then, there's a third option is you end up getting dead, being killed in the disaster or the catastrophe cycle. And they have an imprint of your consciousness. They just give you a new body and bring you back. So that's a little more science fiction-y, a little more exotic. So I don't really talk about that a whole bunch.
Well, this is just a suit. I mean, you can make, you can jump into a new suit.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're at a place where, hold the faith. I know everybody's tired. Everybody is so tired of the BS. And yet we have to, this is where breath work and backing away internally to just observe. You don't really allow yourself to get involved or engaged. That is really one of the prerequisites for moving into a higher dimensional space, knowing when to fully engage and when to just observe and not allow yourself to get caught up in the feelings.
That's a really good point. Could you say that again? Because I think that's almost,
okay.
That's the linchpin right there.
Okay, so the trick, the goal, the thing you have to do is to just back off and observe. You cannot allow yourself to engage or get caught up in the feelings, and that, because once you do, you're hooked, and all that feeling prevents the shifting of more feelings that would move you to a higher state.
You get stuck
So,
in that frequency set of the whatever
yeah,
that ick thing is.
yes. Yeah. And so you just have to observe. It looks like you're cold. It looks like you don't care. And you do. You care deeply.
Yeah.
But you're not going to engage. And that's because you've withdrawn from that dimension and you're moving to a higher dimensional space. And, and the goal is to outweigh the craziness
Yeah.
and then kind of, okay, what can we build now? What can we do? Etc. So,
I sometimes envision in my mind, that I'm in a room with a bunch of fighting toddlers.
yeah,
And do I really want to get down on the floor and scream about
no,
whose toy that is? I
yeah,
don't. I
no,
don't. I can just watch them, you know.
no. And yet you can see in some of our leaders that they are about the stage of development of a 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thank you, Penny. This has been so helpful. Can I briefly pivot to something that's
Yep.
important to me?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Just because I don't want to leave this planet because I love it. I love the planet.
Isn't it beautiful? Yeah,
Humans are a work in progress.
that's fair.
But this planet, I'm so in love with this planet. I mean, it's
Yeah,
so fun
I
being
know.
here in physical. There's so much to do. There's so many things. I mean, I'm just like, there's so much to see and do.
There
It's
is.
wonderful. I am puzzled because the chemtrailing has gotten so bad. We're in a total whiteout here today.
Oh, wow.
It's like the sky is white. And I watch the different geoengineering groups around the planet, and it's everywhere that there's people. And I'm so curious because this is killing the soil. It's killing, I mean, I apologize to the trees and the birds.
I know.
It's like, I'm so sorry, and I saw butterflies. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're hanging around,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess my pouty little stance is, why are the off-planet people allowing this to happen? Because this planet is being so damaged by this.
Yeah.
And Trump said we have complete control over the airspace of Iran. Oh, really? Why don't you have complete control over the airspace of Florida
Yeah.
that has not had summer?
I know.
So what do you see when you go look at this, or what is your thoughts about that? And why are they, I mean, the off-planet people could get rid of
I
this,
know.
but they don't.
No, they don't. They do not interfere, especially in the level of technology that we have. The military, there's a branch of the military that is responsible for the chemtrailing. That branch of the military is under the control of the deep state. So Trump and the boys in Washington, D.C. do not have any say over that. And I've looked at that 100 times and thought, I see the same thing every time. Why aren't you guys doing something about it? And that's when I go look and I see, oh, because it's a different branch. It's a breakaway branch, I guess I'll call it, of the military that was developed by some people who are in cahoots with off-planet people who do not have good intentions. So, and it was very interesting in the last quartet that we did, Greg and John and I. Frank wasn't there, but Greg said, I have come to the conclusion that we are under a takeover threat. Somebody or something is trying to take over this planet. And I'm like, duh. I've been saying that for the last.
Well, let's see. Let's look back 6, 7, 8 years.
I know, but it was good to hear that he had come to that conclusion on his own. And he said there is so much what do they call that, terraforming going on in every way, that there's no other conclusion that you can draw. Somebody's preparing the planet for some other occupation. And I thought, yeah. And when I look at Trump, the real Trump, and the little Space Force group that he's got around him and the few Marines, they're this big compared to something this big that is in power. I don't think we see much of the real Trump at all, because he can't afford to come out in the open too often. And that actually brought me to a position just this last week where I thought, what good are you hiding in some bunker somewhere? What is the point? We need somebody who's standing up. And if nobody's going to stand up and we don't stand up, we're done. We're toast. We will be taken over. And that is the one thing that, I've been talking about for I don't know how long. I've known for a long, long time before I even came here. And that's the whole reason I'm here, is to try to help prevent that takeover. So,
In my opinion, this is my opinion, the reason that the majority of politicians, Trump included, won't mention the chemtrailing is because they can't
that's
defend
right.
against it.
They can't. They don't have enough power.
They don't have enough power, and they don't want to admit the weakness.
That's right. They're
So
trying to keep something alive.
Yeah, they're just all keeping quiet because whoever in it, and someone said this, they said, we are not, our team is not in charge because they have the high ground.
That's true.
And that is true. And when you're in a war, you want the high ground, and they've got the high ground.
They do. And we're all in the trenches right now.
Yeah, getting sprayed to.
I know. Or so many other things. I think the best thing that we can do, when we talk about standing up, is get yourself to a location where you can thrive. Number one, grow your own food. That is probably the most revolutionary thing you can do on planet Earth today, is grow your own food and cook for yourself. That right there is something that just cuts the legs off from under that whole agenda to destroy the health of the population. And maybe the whole rest of the population is just not going to do anything, and you're going to be standing there alone, nice and healthy, all alone. But if it comes to that, there'll be some others. You'll find some others that are have the same mindset, and eventually come together. Like, okay, let's be neighbors, or at least in the same town. I started telling people, come to Lawton. That's it's a wonderful little town, and they're not having anything to do with any of the BS, and they're very self-sufficient. So, and it's cheap, and there's a lot of empty houses here because everybody went south. So I'm just at a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to stand my ground, period. Win, lose, or draw, I'm going to stand my ground. And that's what's important for me. What other people do is up to them. And I'm going to talk about what I think is important. And I'm going to do what I think is important. And I'm not going to support things that I think are a waste of time or money or energy or common sense. And maybe one or two others will see that and say, oh, I'm with you. But in the meantime, I'm prepared to defend my little hill alone. Okay? So it's just the nature. I don't know. I think I got that from my dad. He was in World War II.
Yeah.
One of two men who returned home from a company of 62. It's like, wow. So we have a beautiful world. We have a beautiful planet. I think it's important for people to understand what a world is. And this is something that didn't dawn on me until I was getting ready to give my talk in Berkeley Springs a couple of weeks ago. A world is not a planet. It's a frequency zone where people of like minds gather and they build up a reality. And we have done a magnificent job of building up this reality. And it's one of those Goldilocks zones on a planet. It's just right for all kinds of life. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's not too high, it's not too low, it's not too hard, it's not too soft. It's just right. And the result is the immense greenery. Other planets sometimes are bare and just they're barren deserts. And this place, amazing people in it. I think that as we go through this next 6 to 12 months, I'm not sure we're going to still stay the United States of America with 50 states in the group, but we're still going to have that mindset of, okay, where are my people? Where are they? And staying in touch with them. And that's really all we can do, and that's what's needed right now. Just keep your eye on who's with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think you can handle all that?
There's a part, there's things I'm seeing around me, kind of an explosion in creativity in people.
Oh, nice.
And just a enjoyment in the things that interest them. Their passions, and for me, that's one of the sadnesses I experience when I look around the world and I see people putting their energy into things that don't fulfill them. And I think, imagine if humanity, I mean, we're such a powerful collective.
Yep.
Imagine if we all focused on that which we were so passionate about and loved. We would be unstoppable.
We would.
That's my dream, is to be involved in a collective where everyone wakes up in the morning, if we still sleep, and just spends their time creating.
Yeah.
Creating. And the power of that is, it's almost indescribable.
Yeah. It can't really be measured.
Mm-mm.
It's a force that brings you back to life. And I think it's important to remember that the goal of the evolutionary process in the human is to become immortal. Well, you can't become immortal when you're shooting at the neighbors and they decide to shoot back. You really, that's just dumb. So becoming immortal means learning how to live in harmony with life. And we're close. Some people are close.
Yeah, some people are close.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that you're just going to have to watch them. You're going to learn a lot about what self-destruction is.
Yeah. Well, and isn't that part of the point of this reality system? Is it's filled with lessons.
It is. It is. Yeah. It's like my mother used to say, life is not fair. Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, gosh, what a difference a month make. I can remember last month I was like, oh, everything's just so peaceful. It's like this month is like, oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a call from one of my daughters and she said, Mama, I'm scared. I said, yeah, that's common sense.
Yeah.
Foolish people out there in charge.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if, for the next month, I think if we just keep coming back to this, holding this picture of a beautiful world, peaceful world, a fun world, a world of beauty, a world of truth, and then see that like rolling out across the planet like a big pink blanket.
Yeah.
That just keep doing that. That energy is going to impact somebody.
Mhm.
And the more people who do that, the more impact there will be. So never give up.
Never give up.
Yeah.
Never give up. Penny, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you for coming to this planet. Thank you for
Oh,
saying
it's been
yes.
interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You told me last month you would do it again. I assume that's still the
I
case.
remember that. And 2 or 3 days ago, I was thinking, what was I thinking? And I'm crying. It's like, oh my God, I want to go home. And it's like, okay, calm
Calm
down,
down.
calm down.
Calm down.
The job is not done yet. So
Well, at the very least, it's interesting.
it certainly, it's educational.
Yes, it's not boring here on Earth. And
No,
you have lots of choices.
it's not boring. Boy, that's the understatement of the year. Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, for joining us. I know it's a wild time. I hope this was at least a touchstone for you.
Yeah.
That you felt like, you know, I
I know.
can make a little bit of sense out of the craziness.
Yeah, I know. Hang in there. It's the next few months are kind of tough. So I don't want to use one of those cue things, get your popcorn kind of thing. But take a deep breath, back off, and watch.
And find a little hobby that you love to do
Oh my gosh,
that
yes.
gives you peace and comfort.
Hmm.
And when things get crazy, you go in the corner and you do that.
That's right. Mine is writing. I love
Is
to
it
write.
really?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
soothing for you?
oh my gosh, yes. I lose all sense of time and space
Oh,
and place, and stuff comes out on the page, and I am just like, oh. So I have said to Nellie, I need to go back to writing. I need to write some more. So that's where I'm at this year.
did you save the letter you wrote to Trump?
I did. It's pretty ferocious.
Send it to me if you feel like it. I'd love to read it.
Okay, I will.
Probably going, yeah, what she said. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was so upset with him. It's like, you idiot. I better stop.
You know, I thought that too. And then I thought,
Mm,
maybe when I know the whole story, I'll say, well, that was pretty brilliant.
maybe. I'm open to that.
I'm
I'm
open to that
open.
too.
Yeah,
And that's the part of just watching.
that is. That
Mhm.
is. We think we know, and we really don't know anything
I don't
because
think
we haven't had the truth.
we haven't had the truth, but someday we'll know it. And
Yep.
I think it's best to invest your emotions in things that are nurturing and soothing.
Oh my God, yes.
Mm.
Yeah. Create something beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. All
okay.
right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Uh,
Hang in there, like Penny says. Don't ever give up.
right. Yeah. Take care of yourselves, you guys.
All
I
right.
will. We'll see you in another month.
Amen.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Okay. All right. Bye bye. Okay. I'm saying I'm going to end.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.